I never thought I'd be telling this story. But here I am, about to reveal the worst mistake of my life. One that unleashed a darkness far more sinister than I could have ever imagined. I was on the hunt for the next big hit for Halloween, something that would grip horror fans by the throat. I found it in an old, forgotten file. Or rather, it found me. Blackwood Asylum, the name had been practically erased from the records, like someone had tried to bury it forever. But that only made it more irresistible. A perfect backdrop for Grotesquerie, my upcoming series, a twisted look at real crimes laced with supernatural terror. I thought it would be a hit, a surefire way to boost ratings. I had no idea just how wrong I was. As I dig through the dusty archives, my fingers come across a stack of files labeled Blackwood Asylum. Just reading the name sends a shiver down my spine. The papers are old, stained with time and neglect, and as I flip through them, the contents are more disturbing than I could have anticipated. Photographs of twisted, pale faces with hollow eyes stare back at me, each one paired with a name now long forgotten. Alongside them are cryptic notes, scribbled hastily as if the writer were racing against some unseen horror. The more I read, the deeper I fall into the rabbit hole. The files detail events so macabre they could only exist in nightmares. Mentions of strange rituals fill the pages. Ceremonies conducted under moonlight, dark rites meant to invoke or perhaps appease something they only dared call the collector. As I scan the documents, I learned that this sinister figure was believed to prey on the patients of the asylum, feeding off their fear and despair. The records say that patients would vanish overnight, their empty beds found cold and undisturbed by morning, with no trace left behind except for a lingering chill in the air. This name, the collector, appears again and again. Each mention is followed by a description of a patient's descent into madness, marked by increasingly erratic behavior and violent outbursts. It's as if they were slowly drained of their sanity, one horrifying piece at a time. The doctor's notes are fragmented, their handwriting chaotic and barely legible in places, as though they too were affected by the darkness surrounding this figure. They speak of shadows that moved on their own, of whispers in the dead of night, and of a feeling that they were constantly being watched. I try to convince myself that these are just stories, embellishments by people with overactive imaginations. But as I hold these documents, an unsettling thought begins to form in my mind. What if there's more to this? What if this isn't just a story left to rot in an old file, but a warning? The name the collector becomes an obsession. I find myself poring over the files late into the night, piecing together the fractured accounts. As I close the last file, one phrase echoes in my mind, scribbled hastily at the bottom of a page. He's still here. He never left. Driven by an inexplicable need to uncover the truth, I find myself standing at the gates of Blackwood Asylum. The building looms before me, its shadow stretching across the overgrown lawn like a hand reaching out to pull me in. Every window is shattered, the once white walls now stained with dark streaks of mildew and age. I take a deep breath, steeling myself, and push the heavy, rusted doors open. Inside, the air is thick with decay. The walls are peeling, revealing layers of paint and rot beneath. Rusted medical equipment is strewn about the halls, wheelchairs, gurneys for stands, all abandoned as if the patients and staff had vanished without a trace. The silence is oppressive, broken only by the soft creak of the floorboards under my feet. As I wander deeper into the asylum, I begin to notice strange carvings on the walls. At first, they seem like nothing more than crude graffiti, but as I examine them closer, I realize they form symbols, intricate, spiraling patterns that seem to twist and change as I look at them. I try to make sense of their meaning, but they elude me, slipping away like shadows. I find myself drawn to a room at the end of the hall. Inside, the floorboards are loose as if something has been hidden beneath them. I pry them open, my heart pounding, and discover an old leather-bound diary. The pages are yellowed and fragile, filled with erratic handwriting that mirrors the chaos of the asylum itself. As I flip through the entries, a sense of dread washes over me. The author describes the asylum's patients, their minds broken and twisted, claiming they had been haunted by a figure they called the collector. Their words are desperate, filled with terror as they recount sightings of a shadowy presence that watched them from the corners of their rooms, whispering in the darkness. One entry, scrawled in shaky handwriting, catches my eye. He's here. He knows I've seen him. I can feel him watching even now as I write this. I cannot escape him. None of us can. He takes what he wants and he never lets go. I close the diary, my hands trembling. The room feels colder now, the shadows deeper. A part of me wants to flee, to leave this place and never return. But I know I've already crossed the line. I'm in too deep, and the collector, whoever or whatever he is, now has me in his sights. Back at the studio, the unease that began at Blackwood Asylum lingers, following me like a dark shadow. At first it's easy to dismiss, just tricks of the mind, I tell myself. But then the whispers start. Late at night, when the rest of the team has gone home, I hear faint murmurs echoing through the empty hallways. Sometimes they're almost words. Other times it's just a low hum, as if the building itself is breathing. Then there are the shadows. They're subtle, just glimpses out of the corner of my eye, shifting in ways that defy the laws of light. They stretch and flicker, even when there's no one else around, always lurking just beyond reach. I start to feel as though I'm being watched, even when I'm alone. It's as if the asylum has followed me back, its darkness bleeding into my world. But it's the phone calls that finally push me over the edge. They come at odd hours, always from an unlisted number. When I pick up, there's no one on the other end, just silence, thick and heavy. Sometimes I hear breathing, slow and deliberate, as if someone is just waiting for me to speak. And then one night I hear it, a faint, manic laughter, like a sound echoing from the depths of a nightmare. I'm not the only one affected. A colleague who had been helping me with the research suddenly stops showing up. At first I think he's just taken a break, needing space from the intensity of our work. But when days pass without a word, I start to worry. I go to his apartment, but there's no sign of him. His things are there, untouched, as if he just vanished. On his desk, I find a single note, scribbled hastily in his handwriting. He's here. He's watching. I can't shake the feeling that he's not coming back. That note is the only clue, and it fills me with a dread that I can't explain. Whatever I've brought back from Blackwood Asylum, it's no longer content to stay hidden in the shadows. It's here now, watching, waiting. And as the days go by, I realize that there's nowhere left to hide. I push ahead with Grotesquerie, determined to bring the terrifying story of Blackwood Asylum to life. We begin recreating the scenes I read about, the dark rituals, the sinister symbols, the eerie disappearances. The set designers go all out, painting the symbols I found on the asylum walls, marking the floors with chalk to resemble the twisted patterns I'd seen. We even staged the disappearances, with actors slipping into the shadows, captured by the camera as they fade from sight. The atmosphere on set is tense, but I tell myself it's just nerves. But then the accidents begin. One day, our main camera malfunctions. No one can figure out why. It was fine during rehearsals, but the moment we start filming, it shuts down. The tech team is baffled, but I brush it off as a coincidence. Then, one of the actors, the one playing a patient who encounters the collector, suddenly falls ill. He's fine in the morning, but by afternoon he's pale, sweating, and mumbling about shadows and whispers. We send him home, but he doesn't return the next day, or the day after. The other actors start to talk. They say they've seen strange symbols appearing on set, marks that weren't there before. They claim to have heard things, whispers echoing through the soundstage, footsteps that seem to follow them. At first, I think it's just their imaginations running wild, the power of suggestion. But then I see it myself. A symbol scrawled on the wall of the set that wasn't there when we began filming. It's the same twisted shape I found in the asylum, the one that seemed to shift in the shadows. The crew is on edge. Some of them want to quit, others think it's all a prank. But deep down, I know the truth. We've stirred something up, something that was meant to stay buried. And as I look at the mark on the wall, I feel a chill run through me, a sense of impending doom that I can't shake. I've set something in motion, something that I'm no longer in control of. The first episode of Grotesquerie finally airs, and almost immediately I start receiving messages from viewers. At first just a handful, then dozens, then more than I can keep track of. They all report the same thing, a feeling that they're not alone, that something is watching them. They describe shadows moving in the corners of their rooms, whispers that seem to come from nowhere. I try to dismiss it, but the reports keep coming, each one more unsettling than the last. Then, something truly terrifying happens. A friend of mine, someone I trust implicitly, calls me in the middle of the night. She watched the episode and now she's convinced that she's seen the collector. She tells me she woke up to find a dark figure standing at the foot of her bed, watching her with hollow eyes that seemed to swallow the light. She thought it was a nightmare until she heard him whisper her name. I can hear the panic in her voice, and that's when it hits me. This isn't just happening to strangers. It's real and it's spreading. As the days go on, the reports increase. People are scared to watch the show, but they're drawn to it, fascinated by the terror lurking behind each episode. And with every new viewer, I feel the collector growing stronger. It's as if he's feeding off their fear, using the show as a gateway to move from the shadows of the asylum into the homes of anyone who dares to watch. I thought I was just making a horror series, but I realize now that I've unleashed something far worse. It dawns on me that the collector isn't just a ghost or a myth. He's real, and he's using grotesquerie to reach into the lives of anyone who watches. He's not content to haunt Blackwood Asylum anymore. Now he wants more, and I'm the one who opened the door for him. I can't escape the guilt, the creeping horror of knowing that every time someone hits play, they're inviting the collector into their lives. And now he's everywhere, lurking just beyond the screen, waiting for his next victim. Driven by a desperate need to put an end to the nightmare I'd unleashed, I find myself once again at the gates of Blackwood Asylum. But this time the building feels different. It's as if it recognizes me, as if it knows that I'm the one who dared to disturb its secrets. The air is thick with a sinister energy, a palpable tension that makes every step feel like a march towards something I can't escape. Inside, the darkness is suffocating, wrapping itself around me like a shroud. The silence is heavy, but I can almost hear a heartbeat, slow, deliberate, as though the building itself is alive. The halls are the same, but everything feels distorted, as if the asylum is shifting around me, drawing me deeper into its depths. I feel a chill run down my spine, and that's when I see him. The collector is waiting for me, standing at the end of a long, dark hallway. He's barely human, a shadowy figure with hollow black eyes that seem to swallow the light. His presence is overwhelming, a suffocating darkness that presses down on me, making it hard to breathe. I want to run, but my feet are rooted to the spot, held in place by a force I can't resist. He moves closer, and I feel an icy dread seep into my bones. I realize with a sickening certainty that I've become a vessel for him. By creating grotesquerie, by bringing his story to life, I've given him a way to escape the asylum, to reach out into the world beyond. He's using me, feeding off my fear and my desperation, and I know he's not going to let me go without a fight. In that moment, everything becomes clear. He's not just a ghost or a legend, he's something much darker, something that feeds off the fear of others, using it to grow stronger. And I've played right into his hands. I try to scream, but no sound comes out. All I can do is stare into those hollow eyes, feeling my own fear reflected back at me, magnified 1,000 times over. Back at the studio, I'm a man possessed. I gather every tape, every note, every scrap of research I have on grotesquerie and Blackwood Asylum, and I destroy it all. I'm desperate to sever the connection, to undo what I've done. But deep down I know it's too late. The show has already aired, and the collector is out there now, slipping through screens, lurking behind every episode that people watch. I go into hiding, hoping to escape the reach of the entity I've unleashed. I avoid screens, stay off the grid, and try to convince myself that I'm safe. But at night I feel him. I see his face in every shadow, hear his whispers seeping through the silence, filling my ears with dread. I know he's coming for me. I'm haunted by the thought that it's only a matter of time before he claims me too. It doesn't matter how far I run or where I hide. He's out there, feeding on the fear I helped spread, growing stronger with every new viewer, every lingering gaze. I am his now, just another name on his list, another soul for him to collect. So if you're watching Grotesquerie, beware. The collector knows your face, and once you've seen him, he won't stop until he has you too. If you're tempted to dive into Grotesquerie this Halloween, remember, once you've seen him, the collector will never let you go. Don't say scary stories to you didn't warn you. Are you brave enough to face the horror lurking behind the screen? Subscribe, hit the like button, and share if you dare.